marriages and relationships are failing at an alarming rate. Not because people don't love each other, but because they don't know how to take responsibility for what they've done.
It actually also makes me think back to his conversation with Cam Newton when we talked about eggplant discipline. And just like we talked about it from a Shannon Sharp perspective of how it destroyed a component of his business, at least in the short term, the inverse, or having that eggplant discipline, that vulture would have never got close enough to him to do damage with. Man, this one right here is the one. First and foremost, shout out to Mr. Jason Wilson. The way that he can intelligently break down these very complicated topics and exude so much wisdom while he does so. I mean, this guy is a living treasure, all right? You guys are looking at the title as well as the thumbnail of this video. You already know where we're about to go, and many of us have been guilty of exactly what he's about to talk about. So let's break it down even further to extract even more value from this information together, all right? Without further ado.
Shalom. I truly pray all is well with you and your families. Today, I want to talk about one of the reasons I believe marriages and relationships are failing at an alarming rate. Not because people don't love each other, but because they don't know how to take responsibility for what they've done. Or worse, they refuse to. And when people refuse to take responsibility, everything starts to fall apart. Yep. Communication collapses, resentment builds, and eventually, even love becomes a source of pain rather than peace. And one of the most common complaints I hear from men, and I hear this constantly, is that their wife or the woman in their life never apologizes when she is wrong. This might sound trivial, but it's not. It's actually profound because it tells you something is fundamentally broken in a relationship dynamic, something deeply psychological. A refusal to say, I'm sorry, is a refusal to acknowledge harm. And I get it, man. It's hard to keep loving someone who never admits when they're wrong. But here's the part that baffles me, my brothers.
Okay.
And honestly, at times it burdens me. You know she's wrong. You feel it in your gut. That sharp moment of disrespect, the passive aggression or the dismissal of your emotions or your heart. But instead of addressing it head on, the masculine way, the way a man and a leader should, you take the bait. She moves close. She initiates intimacy. And you fold again. You call it moving on, but let's be honest, my brother, it's not.
Before we go any further on this topic, let's take a moment to just acknowledge something fundamental when we discuss this. The importance of accountability is actually on both people. Equal accountability, equal acknowledgement, and equal ownership of faults within a situation is critical for the success of any type of relationship, and not even just one with a significant other, but also friendships as well. The same thing applies within business relationships. The same thing applies within your family as well, is that accountability consistently will build trust. And building trust will lead to longevity, because without it, the foundation will crumble. Now, what Mr. Jason Wilson is going to focus on is that why, as we as men, do we not stand on business, or we don't allow that I'm sorry to happen, or it happens in a nefarious way, one of which she may not even be aware of, or at least the detriment of prioritizing a fake I'm sorry and I'm sorry with her body as opposed to a real I'm sorry, or really seeking accountability.
That's not healing, that's hiding or sweeping the real issue under the rug. And we all know eventually it gets taller and taller and taller until we trip over it. And every time you do it, every time you bury a piece of your voice, your, truth, I don't like saying that, but your reason for the offense gets quiet.
Yeah, dims.
Your confidence gets smaller. Your silence becomes your prison.
Yep, your boundaries
until
fall.
All that's left is bitterness and silent resentment. Then you wonder why you're so angry, why you feel unseen, why she never apologizes. It's because you never gave her a reason to. You never stood on your ground long enough for her to feel the weight of what she did. You let your flesh speak louder than what you truly feel. And some of you keep letting your desires speak louder than your own convictions. She touches you and you forget the offense immediately. She seduces you and you surrender your position. You trade your standard for a moment of sensual satisfaction. You abandon your authority for access to something you already have the key to. And sadly, you call it making peace. But it's really just self-betrayal, my brothers. That's not masculine. That's a milksop mindset. For those of you who may not know what milksop means, it's like when you would dip a piece of bread or a cracker in milk and let it, or a cookie, and you wait for it to get soft so that when you bite it, it doesn't crumble. You don't want that type of mindset. That type of mindset shapes to any circumstance instead of standing strong in the midst of whatever is going on. But real talk, my brothers, it's not all your fault. Since our teenage years, culture raised us on conquest. The more women, more intimacy, the more men you will be. So now in your marriage, intimacy is similar to a dog treat. Good job for fixing the sink. Here, boy. Thanks for buying me these shoes. Here, boy. And as a result, she doesn't say, I'm sorry when she's wrong. She just offers you intimacy. And because you've been conditioned to believe that intimacy is the goal in a relationship, you settle and accept it as an apology.
Now, while I recognize his points in regards to how society has constructed the importance of sexual dynamics for men and the conquest of that is going to make you feel more like a man, I appreciate him focusing in on that to re-engineer its true importance when it comes to the longevity and consistency of a relationship. Quick emergency meeting. I was recently searching for my name online and found way too much personal information, which brought me down this weird rabbit hole of how that could have happened, and found out that there's companies out there called data brokers that will sell your data to marketers, scammers, and even stalkers. And it's a nasty, disgusting feeling knowing that there's bad actors out there selling my information, selling your information for profit. But that's why I'm recommending today's sponsor, Aura. Now, I use Aura to automatically remove my information from these sites and keep my information off. But they do other things as well, such as bank fraud and identity theft alerts, VPN access. But guys, utilize my link down in the description box down below for a 14-day trial. At least see if you've been compromised. Privacy is king in this day and age, and you should know if your information is out there. So again, utilize my link, aura.com/MTR, in the description box down below to try 2 weeks free. That's way more than enough time to see if your personal data has been exposed. Go now. It actually also makes me think back to his conversation with Cam Newton when we talked about eggplant discipline. And just like we talked about it from a Shannon Sharp perspective of how it destroyed a component of his business, at least in the short term, the inverse, or having that eggplant discipline, that vulture would have never got close enough to him to do damage with. Also, when he talks, I think about that age-old feminist, liberated quote of, "Ussy runs the world." And the only way that it can run the world or rule over men is if men don't have eggplant discipline and allows the ussy to out-prioritize their own discipline within their decision making. But also focus on what he said is that if you allow that to happen within the confines of a relationship, you are breaking down your barriers. You are breaking down your structure that you have as the leader have created. And that's going to produce an environment that could inevitably lead to happy wife, happy life. I see so many of these married men nowadays walking around as former shells of themselves because they've had their barriers beat down beyond submission to the point of they can't even fight back anymore or don't want to fight back anymore. Or if they do fight back, they'd rather just be quiet and have peace that way and allow the BS to occur. As a man, it is paramount to recognize that you are no longer standing on business or that your barriers are being broken down based off of her behavior. And if she can't fit within the confines of the structure that you laid out, then she ain't the one, Chief. But this is where true accountability comes in on both sides of the equation. And her inability to recognize how it should be addressed should elicit a response from you that garners accountability from the behavior, truly.
What if you tried that? Imagine you hurt her, lied, disrespected her, shut her down emotionally, and instead of apologizing, you just walked up to her and started caressing her hips and tried to kiss her. She'd look at you like you had lost your mind. Because for her, intimacy doesn't replace responsibility. She wants you to acknowledge your wrong, not cover it up with affection or gifts. She wants you to take ownership, not offer touch as a shortcut to reconciliation. And when we offend them, they have no problem with putting us in the proverbial doghouse. We're cut off emotionally, physically, even conversationally until we make it right. But what happens when they offend us? We don't have a doghouse for them. We just take the affection and act like that settles the conflict. Personally, my brothers, I never fell for that double standard. There's no way I'm sleeping on the couch because we had a disagreement. That's immature. That's childish.
Yeah.
My wife and I either talk like adults and resolve the issue, or we get help from our counselor. But one thing's for sure, I'm sleeping in the bed. And here's the part I believe most men miss. When you surrender to her giving you her body instead of giving you a sincere apology, you don't just lose your position, my brothers, you lose more of her respect for you. And every time you stay silent just to keep the peace by getting a peace, the suppression of how you really feel eventually explodes into an argument or even worse, separation. Because unspoken pain doesn't disappear. It mutates into distance. It
like a dirty
mutates into resentment. It mutates into disconnection. And the tragedy is, my brothers, it doesn't have to end that way. If you would have just stood your ground, if you had restrained your drive for intimacy, if you had paused the pleasure in order to protect the principle, you wouldn't be questioning your worth right now. You wouldn't be questioning if you should stay married right now. See, this isn't about denying your desires. It's about not letting your desires deny you of what you deserve. It's about showing her and reminding yourself that your standard is not for sale, that you're not just here to keep her satisfied. You're here to be respected and loved too.
Come on.
Because when a woman sees a man who won't trade truth in for a touch, she may resist him at first, but deep down, she learns he is not a slave to his lust and respects him more. She begins to value his word and respect his word, and even more importantly, believe it. You can't crave communication, or better yet, you can't crave connection and avoid confrontation. And I get it again, my brothers, you don't want to start another argument.
Yeah.
But intimacy is an illusion of peace, and so is silence. Both, when as a result of conflict, is just postponed pain.
I was having a conversation with one of my guys lately about the end of a relationship. And what he told me was that there were specific behaviors that he recognized earlier on, but he thought not to address these things. And those things manifested into an extreme level of resentment later on down the line. And what I told him is that, bro, you kicked the can too much. You recognize the behavior, but you allowed other outs for her. And now it's a normalcy within the environment of the relationship that you allowed. And it's normalcy. No longer is it mixed with the puppy love. No longer is it mixed with the newness of a relationship. It's real. And it's a red flag, but because you didn't stand on business because of it, it's damn near a shock to her that you're even bringing it up. That's why I tell you guys in the beginning, you create your fortress of standards and you never compromise on those standards. And in fact, if you do, she'll subtly lose respect for you. And if you are vetting her for something serious, the short-term gratification of either the peace of kicking the can and not addressing the behavior, or the short-term gratification of her body will never override the hurt that you're going to feel later when you realize that these key indicators and these red flags are too much to ignore. I found a video from a therapist that describes this dynamic. Let's watch.
So I was talking to a male friend of mine the other day, and he told me that women don't apologize and women can't be held accountable. And I began to really think deeply about this idea. And one of the things that came across my mind is, in the last 9 months or so of me being in my private practice, I have myself experienced many women, whether they came in as a couple or they came by themselves, they very abruptly discontinued their therapy. And I started to reflect and really think, what was going on here? And I noticed that after I had to confront them about something, I had to bring to their attention something they were doing that wasn't contributing to the health of the relationship, they became very defensive and very, just very harsh, and they stopped coming. And even though the husband would continue to come, he made it very clear that, yeah, she won't apologize. She thinks you're wrong. She thinks you're taking my side. And I began to really reflect, like, oh my gosh, is it true that women don't apologize? Is it that women struggle with being held accountable? I'd love your thoughts on this. Me personally, I think it has to do with a person's level of emotional maturity.
Maybe about 2 months before my dad got sick, I'll never forget this interaction. We were sitting in a car. It was my dad driving. It was me in the back seat and another family member in the passenger seat. And we were talking about actually some of the content that was on the channel. And the family member, who's a woman, said something about a specific video where I talked about women not liking to say I'm sorry or being held accountable. So we were quickly going back and forth in regards to this. And I'll never forget this, is that my dad just cut off the whole conversation and said, as long as I've been alive in every relationship that I've been in, I've never had a woman say, I'm sorry. Needless to say, the female family member no longer engaged in the conversation because she didn't realize that that was a thing. Now, I also say this to all the ladies out here, the MTRs. Men are picking up on your ability to hold yourself accountable and truly apologize for something that you may have done wrong. If you call yourself accountable, but your behavior does not match your words, we're going to pick up on that. And there's no amount of your body that you can put out in front of us that'll ever get us to ignore that in a way that's going to produce value for either of us going into the future. Back to the main video.
We've been conditioned to be emotionless. We can't even connect with the person we're sleeping with. So now intimacy is just a cover-up for conflict. It's the new I'm sorry. But brothers, it's not enough, and you know it's not. And if you keep allowing it to happen, you will never be treated the way you deserve. You want respect? Well, first start respecting yourself. You want her to value your heart? Stop giving access to your body when your heart is hurting or when your heart has been hurt by her. Because the longer you avoid confronting the problem, the harder it becomes to live with her. So here's what I want you to do, my brothers.
Okay.
Action step number 1. Self-control is strength. When she wrongs you and tries to initiate intimacy, instead of apologizing, stop her. Gently, respectfully, and clearly let her know that, hey, I feel disrespected by what you said or hurt by what you did. And before I give you my body again, this needs to be resolved. A mature woman will respect that and will acknowledge the impact of her actions. And if she doesn't, still do not fold. Hold your ground and seek wise counsel, a therapist, someone grounded that hopefully you both respect. But do not trade in your position for pleasure. If she never feels the consequences of crossing the line, why would she ever stop? Correction is love. And remember, my brothers, silence is not.
Correction is love.
Here's action step number 2. Forgive quickly, but respond wisely. It's written that we should get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, and slander, as well as all types of evil behavior. Suppressing bitterness does not make you stronger, my brothers. It actually makes you weaker. A 12-year study conducted by researchers from the University of Rochester and Columbia University found
You
that
are.
chronic bitterness has been linked to increased stress hormone levels, high blood pressure, and even a weakened immune function. I also want you to remember that you don't need to be angry in order to be assertive. When we forgive quickly, you'll be able to speak without yelling. You'll be able to lead without lashing out. If you do not master this skill, gentlemen, you'll end up apologizing to her when she's the one wrong. I can't tell you how many times I've been in that position where Nicole would do something to offend me. And because of my reaction, not a response, but my reaction of yelling and being dogmatic, I end up having to go get her flowers and apologizing, and her offense never gets addressed.
This is absolutely a fair point, and I would say is actually a layer deep than what I've communicated previously. I've talked about the deflection that can happen if you address something, and instead of taking a look at what it is that you're talking about, she instead will focus on the way that you said it. And listen, if you are actually saying it in a calm, frame-minded, a stoic man, if you're actually saying it like that and she still focuses on the way that you say it, then you got a whole other list of issues. But the brother is right. If you're aggressive, like he says, right, you can be assertive without being aggressive. Those are two very different things, or they show up very different ways. But if you are just reacting to a situation and you wearing your emotion on your sleeves, and then she wants to focus on the way that she brings it up to you, well, then she might have a point as well. But I love his points about bitterness and the stress response, right? We fill up with cortisol, and, it's one of the silent killers, all right? So your practice into honing masculinity will actually help you never receive ailments that stress, anxiety, and bitterness might impose on your body. Choose health, choose masculinity, choose wisely.
So just for clarity, forgiveness isn't letting her off the hook, my brother. It's a counter that keeps you from being bitter and keeps you in the right standing, which is most important, with the Most High. Master your emotions, or they will master you. And lastly, action step number 3, when she apologizes, receive it. Don't just nod, my brothers. Say the words, I forgive you. Those words hit different. They remind her and you that an offense happened and reconciliation matters. And like the word says, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. Make peace, restore intimacy, authentic intimacy, where your hearts connect, not just your bodies. Because once the apology comes, the reconciliation can begin. And when intimacy returns, intimacy won't be a temporary act of pleasure, but a sacred expression of oneness. It becomes communion, not compensation, a reflection of trust, not a replacement for truth. My brothers, you are more than an erection, more than a release. You are human, a leader, made in the image of the Most High Yah. And this moment in time is demanding something greater of you. Stop giving into intimacy when what she needs is your standard, for you to stand strong on your convictions. Stop calling silence strength. Stoicism is not strength. It's another, I would say, a way of saying you're hiding behind a facade. It's just not the way we should act as men. It's not the masculine way of being bold and confronting a wrong so that it can be made right. Always speak with love, but please stand with strength. Lead with clarity and, again, conviction. My brothers, if this resonated with you, if you felt both convicted and equipped, then maybe you're ready to dive deeper.
Absolutely incredible message here today by Mr. Jason Wilson. Guys, I'll leave a link to this video down in the description box down below. He begins to talk about something else that he's creating within this community. So go over there, take a look, make sure you show him some love. but so many lessons. And I appreciate it hearing it from somebody as experienced as what he is. And I think if you begin to sum it up, right, and thinking about your place here as a man and practicing discipline in a world full of distractions, right? We have to embody the standard that we expect, right? You can't demand peace when you allow behaviors that elicit chaos. You can't ask for her to respect you if you don't conduct yourself in a way where you are respecting yourself. In the moment that you start accepting less than, or you allow your structure or your barriers to go down, it is the exact moment that the foundation begins to crack, and then inevitably it's going to wither away. This longing for peace, or I described it earlier as kicking the can, this comfort, it's going to keep you weak if it's never challenged. The same way as if you stay on a couch all day and you're comfortable and you never get into the gym and defy gravity, that will keep you weak as well. The analogy between your body and physical motion, as well as your respect level of what you command in relationship, in business, with your family, it is very, very true. It's something that has to be constantly worked on. So you must embrace correction. Just like as Mr. Jason Wilson says, that's a part of being a man. You must stand firm in who you are, stand firm within your standards, and never, ever, ever let errant, irrational emotions just override any of this, any of your morals, any of your beliefs, any of your principles. Because a disciplined man is a peaceful man. You must understand that. And it's not just discipline within yourself, but holding discipline of others as well. And peace is the highest form of power. All right. All right, guys, that's been your thoughts here today. Shout out again to Mr. Jason Wilson. Fantastic discussion, my brother. And I am ecstatic to have the opportunity to commentate over them in order to continue to push messages of positivity like this forward, and messages of learning and education like this forward. Guys, drop me a comment down below. What is it that you think about this discussion here today? Did you derive value of the things that we are both saying and talking about? Let me know down in the comment box down below. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me, and I'll see you soon. Until next time, peace.